Hello and welcome to Crosstalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter Lavelle. With the conviction of Bradley Manning and the continued hunt for Edward Snowden, there can be no doubt whistleblowers will be intimidated and imprisoned by the powers that be. At the same time, American and Western publics are not told who the enemy is. That's top secret. Costing lives and precious treasure, don't we have the right to know who we're fighting? To Crosstalk, the enemies of the state, I'm joined by Ty Berry. He is the Washington, D.C. director of Code Pink. And in New York, we cross to Stephen Laser. He is the host of the radio show Making Sense with Steve Laser. All right, gentlemen, Crosstalk rules in effect. That means you can jump in anytime you want. Today, Mr. Snowden was given a year asylum, Steve, in Russia. And on Friday, we will see Bradley Manning sentenced for his involvement in leaking. So we have two different players, two different outcomes. Your thoughts, my friend?
You know, the one thing that I've never been able to get a straight answer from regarding folks who are supporters of Snowden and Manning is, here are two guys who signed non-disclosure agreements. They're working with the U.S. government to sign non-disclosure agreements saying they're not going to release classified information without permission. They find out that there's something going on that they have a moral problem with, or at least they think that there's something going on they have a moral problem with. The U.S. government has said to them, listen, even though you've signed these non-disclosure agreements, if you feel that you are a witness to some wrongdoing, you know of some wrongdoing, you want to report it, here are a few methods that you can use. And if you use them, you will be immune from prosecution. We cannot touch you by law. You can go to an inspector general of the Department of Defense. You can tell a U.S. congressman or senator. If you do that, you will not be prosecuted, and we will investigate the wrongdoing. Both of these gentlemen refused to do that. They chose the most public and potentially embarrassing method to the United States to do that.
Well, maybe, Steve, that's the only way. Maybe that's the only way to change things, is to embarrass the U.S. government, because it tortures people. We know that.
It's not the only way to change things.
We know that.
You know, no, you know what?
Now we're having.
I take issue with that.
But we're having a great discussion. We're having a great discussion now in the U.S. about privacy. We should thank Mr. Snowden for that, shouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're having really a hysterical conversation about privacy with people on all different sides alleging all kinds of different things. Nobody's really sure what the truth is. If we had gone through, for instance, a congressman or senator and had a congressional investigation into what these guys were talking about. Steve, after all this, I don't really trust these people. Do you trust these people? They had this information that had been lying to us for years. It took someone else outside the loop to do something. Ty, jump in here, because we're having this great discussion about privacy because of Mr. Snowden, and his passport has been revoked. He's stuck in Russia looking for refuge. I mean, he's a hero.
Well, first, I'd like to thank the government of Russia for offering him temporary asylum. It was a brave thing to do, to confront this imperialist government in the United States. But speaking to Steve, I'd like to say, Steve, whistleblowers have come forth. John Kiriakou right now is serving 24 months in a prison in the United States when he brought up the name of those who were the torturers in Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo. He brought up one name. He's spending 24 months in a federal prison. And at the same time, the guy who wrote a book, a New York Times bestseller book, on admitting that he was a torturer, is now free running around the United States. This is wrong. We should congratulate Edward Snowden. We should thank Bradley Manning. And these people have brought to light those things that I was in the Senate hearing yesterday, and they were talking about Edward Snowden. And the senators were appalled at what they've seen out of the NSA. Ron Wyden has been saying for years, if the American public knew what was going on behind their backs, they'd want change, they would be appalled. It's time for our government to practice oversight. We need our representatives in Washington, D.C. to use this power of oversight to get to the bottom of what's going on in the NSA and not blow off whistleblowers. Bring them in, ask them questions, find out, offer them immunity, find out what's really going on in our name in the NSA. The privatization of information, again, Booz Allen, private organization, 99% of its income comes from the United States government. No oversight. Edward Snowden brought what was going on at Booz Allen to the American public and we should know this information so that we can have a debate in our country about this, Steve.
Okay, Steve, jump in.
You know, Ty, I waited through that whole very nice soliloquy that you just offered for any attempt at all to address the point that I mentioned, and you didn't. You talked about immunity. They have immunity if they go directly to a congressman or senator, as opposed to embarrassing the United States in the most public way possible. You didn't address that.
No, Steve, Steve, if I went to Dianne Feinstein, listen, no, Steve, if I went to Dianne Feinstein, would she listen to me? Would she listen to me on intelligence, or would she call security and have me arrested?
Absolutely not.
I think she would.
You think she would?
Absolutely not. And I will tell you, there's a whistleblower.
No, let's go to Steve.
There's a law that says they are not allowed to take retaliatory action against you if you go to a congressman or senator. That's a law. They are not allowed to do that. They have to initiate an investigation on your behalf to try to figure out if what you're saying is real.
John Kiriakou tried it.
Ty, you talked about how Senator Wyden and various other senators are appalled. So what you're actually saying, Ty, is if Snowden had gone directly to Senator Wyden, he could have gotten the same thing accomplished without violating the oath that he took and without embarrassing the United States.
No, I'm not saying that because Wyden also took an oath. Wyden also took an oath not to reveal the secrets that are given to him, the overclassified secrets that are given to him in meetings. So he is not allowed to help Edward Snowden. And not only that is there are other whistleblowers who have been charged with crimes that the United States government has tried over and over to put in jail. They've gone through the levels of their organizations trying to alert people to the crimes that are being committed in these different organizations, these three-letter
any of these folks who have actually gone to a congressman or senator because you can't. The process exists and it works. I'm former military. I was involved in an Inspector General investigation. The very high-level wrongdoers who were involved in that were punished and forced to leave the armed forces. So I've seen this process work. It simply wasn't given a chance here.
You know, Steve, the U.S. military commits war crimes, atrocities. How do you go to them and say, help? They're the ones committing the atrocities. Come on, the helicopter.
You go to a congressman or senator.
The United States government was
Hang on, let's let Steve go.
You can't say that a senator is appalled and is going to work on what you're talking about and then say you can't go to a congressman or senator. That doesn't work. That's a contradiction. We would be having a totally different conversation right now if they had done that. I would be supporting them. I'll tell you what, as a journalist, I will work with anybody who works in the federal government. If they want to blow the whistle, I'll guide them through the right process. We'll get their issue resolved, and you know what? They won't have to hole up in a third country. They won't be going to jail.
No, Steve, because the NSA will be listening to you. The NSA will be listening to you.
Steve, I would look at the journalist who's now sitting in jail because he worked with other whistleblowers, and I'd be very careful of how you proceed because they will put you in jail. They will silence you. They will bury you in some cell.
Steve? Intimidation.
I promise you that they will not do that if we go through the way that it's supposed to be done.
How can you give that promise,
It's such a wonderful thing that this country
has,
that there's an actual way to blow the whistle if you have classified information. There's an actual way to do that. How many other countries can say that they have a prescribed way for folks who have otherwise agreed not to disclose classified information?
Come on, Steve, the Obama administration is at war with whistleblowers. Steve, come on.
Okay, Steve, give me an example of where a whistleblower has gone to.
I've never heard of a claim where somebody who is.
All right, Ty, go ahead, Ty.
Steve, give me an example. Give me an example of someone, a whistleblower who's gone to a government agency who hasn't been either fired or demoted or let go or been vilified in the press or even imprisoned.
Steve?
I would throw that back on you. Give me an example of a whistleblower who has gone to a congressman or a senator through the proper channels and has actually been prosecuted or who's ended up in jail. You can't name one.
Well, first of all, one name that pops out to me is Bunny Greenhouse, who even went to a committee hearing. She got fired. She got fired for blowing the whistle on the illegal war in Iraq, the way they were funding it. Illegally funding the war in Iraq. She was fired. And they never did anything about the whistleblowing that she did. What did she gain from it? Absolutely nothing. And she was silenced. and threatened.
Which congressmen and senators did you go to?
But there are others. There are many others.
Which congressmen and senators did you go to?
You know, but hang on, guys. Hang on, hang on, guys. Steve, I want to ask you: people that commit atrocities, do they go on trial? We have whistleblowers going on trial. Whistleblowers being hunted. Well, how about the guy that the guys in the helicopter that shot the civilians? Are they on trial? Are they on trial? They are?
I'm actually really glad that you brought up that helicopter video.
Are they on trial?
Are they on trial? What about the 19 people killed in Nisour Square?
I saw had some of the folks.
Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, can I address one of these at a time? The unedited video that I saw of the helicopter, okay, had two of the 11 folks who were shot at with RPGs, one of them with an RPG armed, and the other person with an AK-47 in the area of that city that had just seen the most heavy fighting that day. So I'm not sure exactly what you want the folks in the helicopter prosecuted for. There are
not to kill civilians. Not to kill civilians. It was a journalist, Steve. One was a journalist.
Steve is not telling the truth.
That's ridiculous. One was a journalist.
There was no RPG. There was no AK-47 with those immediate people at that site.
Julian Assange himself admitted that those folks had those weapons. He's not disputing the fact that those folks had those weapons. Well, he questioned what that means. What it means to me, somebody in a helicopter looking down a gun site, seeing people armed
video
in a small group in an area that has just seen the heaviest fighting tells me that
it's good heated debate, but I have to jump in to go to a short break, and after that short break, we'll continue our discussion on the enemies of the United States and Mr. Snowden's fate. Stay with RT. Welcome back to Crosstalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter Lavelle. To remind you, we're discussing America, its enemies, and Mr. Snowden. Okay, Steve, I think it's quite sad that Mr. Snowden had to end up in Russia because he didn't want to end up here. We don't know if he will be here for over a year. He can stay for a year. How do you think Washington's going to respond? Because he's seen as a political refugee here. And I'd like to point out that Mr. Putin doesn't want to see this damage relations with the United States. He's made that clear on a number of occasions. Go ahead, Steve.
I would actually like to see what he alleged investigated, fully investigated. I may disagree with the way that he blew the whistle here, but I think there is a lot of work to be done on the part of the Congress and the government to reassure the United States, the people of the United States, that nothing nefarious is going on here. I would like to see a full investigation. I would support that. And once again, I am not against whistleblowers. I am against whistleblowers doing things in the manner that Manning and Snowden did. If they had done things differently, we would be having a totally different conversation, and I'd be supporting them. But
Steve, maybe we'd be having a totally different conversation if Bradley Manning hadn't been tortured.
Well, Steve, I'd like to invite you to
let Steve answer. Let Steve answer the question. Okay? Torture, Manning.
You know, I was in the military at a time when you got punished with non-judicial punishment. You went to something that was called correctional custody, where in some cases corporal punishment was allowed.
Steve, you're really disappointing me here. Like Steve, you're really disappointing me. It was torture. It was torture. Come on. It was torture. And Mr. Snowden doesn't want to go through the same thing.
I don't agree with that. I don't think solitary confinement is torture.
Even the judge said it was torture, Steve.
Ty, jump in.
Even the judge said it was torture.
In that case.
Ty, go ahead. Ty,
I disagree.
Ty, go ahead.
Well, one of the pillars. I was just going to point out to Steve that he should go back to the C-SPAN and check the hearing yesterday in the Senate. I was there. This was a total cover-up. The government has no ability to go in and oversee what's going on at Booz Allen. It's a private organization. They have no capability of overseeing the NSA. Everything is is redacted. They said they sent out some papers yesterday that fully gave an explanation of what was going on in the NSA. 90% of it was redacted. There were a couple of statements in there. They said this proves that we're not tapping into your emails, your text messages, your phones. We're not chasing you. And I'm going to tell Steve something that I believe. I believe that today this government is only in the grabbing stages of this information overload. They're just taking the information. Tomorrow, they're going to use it against every single one of us. They're going to take a text message from over here. They're going to take a location of our cell phone from over there. They're going to take an email. They're going to take a phone call that was made through another person, through another person. They're going to tie us into some kind of organized dissent in this country, and they're going to put you in jail, or they're going to threaten you, and they're going to offer you a time off if you give us someone. And this has been their tactic in the country, in this government, for a long time. It's time we end this this war on the American people, the war on, quote unquote, on terrorism, and start being truthful with the American public. And let's see where this goes. Let's really see oversight. I would love to see oversight in my government.
Steve, this is what Snowden has done. See what kind of conversation we're having right now? This is what he did. He did for us, and Manning did for us. It's important.
I don't agree. I think we've been having the conversation on privacy since about 2006, 2007. I wrote an article about this in 2007. I don't think we're having a conversation. I think we have a whole bunch of people going off half-cocked, and I don't really think as a result anything substantial is going to get done. I think this could have been done very differently.
Steve.
I hope we have a thorough investigation. I actually agree with Ty on this. I hope we have a thorough investigation. I hope we get to the bottom of this. I hope we get the truth, and I hope we can reassure the American people. And if there is wrongdoing, I hope it's punished.
Okay, but if everything is secret, how do we know?
The FISA court.
If everything's secret, how do we know?
Well, the FISA court was told. The FISA court was told 7 years ago that we're doing this and this and this, and they were completely lied to. Even the FISA court was lied to. For 7 years, they had been even going into our emails or taking our email addresses. And then they can use it in any way they want to. They can read whatever they want to.
With Ty
this was revealed by Edward Snowden.
7 years ago, we were having warrantless wiretapping,
and they told us they weren't doing
the Bush
this.
administration was
Steve?
No, the Bush administration pretty much admitted they were warrantless wiretapping, and they said it was legal for them to do so under the current conditions. I disagreed with that. I don't think warrantless wiretapping is legal. And the article I wrote in 2007 suggested that the FBI, CIA, NSA should push back on any requests to warrantless wiretap and insist that the administration get a FISA warrant.
Okay, Ty, I don't want.
But Steve, Edward Snowden proved that they did not stop. So what difference does it make your article or what the government says? They didn't stop. They continued with the program.
Steve?
Yes, they did. They're not warrantless wiretapping. They're getting FISA warrants now, which is exactly what I called for back in 2007. That's actually a massive improvement that gives both judiciary and legislative oversight into what the executive branch is doing. That's a huge difference.
Ty,
is that oversight? They've been continuing an illegal program for the last 7 years. They were exposed by Edward Snowden, and now they're going, oops, well, we really don't, but we do. And then General Hamilton was caught lying. I mean, General Alexander was caught lying to the Senate after an oath, and was called a misspoken statement.
That's called perjury, Steve.
If they're getting a FISA warrant with judicial and legislative oversight, that's not illegal. You can disagree with it, but it's not illegal at that point.
Okay, but if it's secret, how do you know? Steve?
If they're keeping it even secret from the overseers.
The judges who are approving the FISA warrant, no. No. The judges who are approving the FISA warrant, they see the entire request. The folks in the Senate Intelligence Committee see the entire requests. The similar committee in the House gets to see the entire request.
But they can't tell the public.
The House Oversight Committee can request to see the entire request.
But they can't tell the public, can they?
And not only that, the NSA was framing it in, we're not really using it, we're only picking out those individuals. Steve, the NSA was saying, yes, we're blanketly wiretapping everybody, but we're really only focusing on these few individuals. But then when it comes out, we know that they're taking one person's phone call and connecting it to another person's phone call, the 3 hops, as we heard in the Senate hearing. 3 hops, and they can connect pretty much everybody in the United States.
All right,
6
gentlemen,
degrees of separation.
Gentlemen, I want to ask you, what is the future of whistleblowers, Steve? You know, Mr. Snowden's going to be in Moscow for a while. What's the future of whistleblowers in the United States? Are people going to take him as a,
that's the thing,
a role model or something to fear? Go ahead.
I would tell any whistleblower, potential whistleblower who might be watching this, you're doing something very important. I want them to blow the whistle. I want them to do it the right way. If they're willing to contact me, I'll help them do it. I think we need to know as a country and as a people if the government that is supposed to serve us is doing illegal things or immoral things. I don't think it needs to quash the intent of anybody who wants to blow the whistle. It should say, though, if you're going to do it, use the right procedure. Use a congressman, and I actually blame the journalists involved who didn't advise them to go through the right procedure. There's still a story there. If you assist somebody to go through the right procedure, you can still get the wrongdoing addressed. And I haven't seen a verified situation where somebody went through going to a congressman, explaining to them what was going on, and didn't get their issue addressed or was punished.
Greenwald will help you. He will, not the Washington Post. Ty.
Can I just say that, Steve, you're pretty naive in this. A whistleblower go right into prison or be like Jeremy Hammond. You know, they're held in isolation. They're in prison. Aaron Swartz is now dead for whistleblowing or for trying to get information to whistleblow. You know, what do all these guys have in common? They're all young people. Young people who have grown up with the internet. They've grown up with emails. They've grown up under this war on information in this country. And these young people are not going to be deterred by the government. I think they're going to continue this opening up of our democracy, which is very vital for us to get the information we need to keep a democracy going. I think they were hoodwinked into getting into volunteering to go into Iraq or Afghanistan, and they found out the truth. And you're going to see more and more and more of these whistleblowers coming out. I don't think that what's going on with Bradley Manning, this brave soul, and Edward Snowden, a hero, is going to deter the young people from wanting the truth to come out, wanting an open, fair, and free environment where they can speak their minds.
Fair enough. Steve, what do you think?
Obviously, I've said this a number of different ways. I'll investigate the one instance that you think was an instance where somebody went to the Congress and was punished. If I'm wrong about that, I'll issue a public apology to you, and I'll explain that to my listeners on my radio show. I don't think I'm wrong. I think if you look at it, everybody who has gone through trying to approach a senator or a congressman has not been punished in any sort of way. And I would encourage people who want to blow the whistle to do it, but go through the right procedure. I'll help you if you contact me.
Ty, I'm going to give you the last word in the program.
Steve,
Go ahead.
Have you ever I have one last word for Steve. Have you ever contacted Jessica Radich? You should talk to Jessica Radich. She will give you the information that you need on whistleblowers that have been. Colleen Rowley. I mean, there's all kinds of whistleblowers out there that have been terminated by the government or have been silenced. And if you talk to Jessica Radich or Colleen Rowley, they'll point you in the right direction.
All right, gentlemen, since Mr.
The whistleblowing needs to continue.
It needs to continue. And gentlemen, since
say.
Mr. Snowden is probably going to be in Moscow for a while, maybe I'll have him on Crosstalk. We've run out of time. Many thanks today to my guests in Washington and in New York. And thanks to our viewers for watching us here at RT. See you next time, and remember, Crosstalk rules.
I love you.